I've dedicated my life to traveling all across the country sharing my story. And I've been very fortunate. To walk into rooms and tell my story in front of over 1 million kids.
Former basketball star is in trouble with the law. Chris Herron made a name for himself playing at Fresno State and going toe. On Friday, Herron was arrested in Portsmouth on drug charges. Investigators claim heroin residue was found in his car.
When I started this, and I walked in and I saw 2,000 kids sitting in front of me, that made me a little nervous. So I walked behind the curtain and I said a quick prayer. I said, please God, just one kid. Please, just one. If I can help one, it's worth it. So I walked in, grabbed the mic, I told it. After I told it, Q&A. After Q&A, I saw no more hands, so I was ending it. Relieved it was finished, I was exiting. As I'm walking, this little girl in the front row tapped me on my leg and pointed me up to the top. At the top of the bleachers was a little girl with her hand up, sitting all by herself. So I started walking this way so I could hear her question. As I'm walking, kids are shifting in their seats. They want to see who has the question. When they spot the girl at the top, it became disruptive. Kids started laughing at her, making fun of her, and telling her, put your hand out. So that little girl, who had more courage and guts than I ever had, that little girl dropped her hand, turned red, and said, see, Mr. Herron, at my high school, it's not even worth asking questions. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares anyway. So I ended it. But I felt I failed her. I tried to find her, I couldn't, and I walked out wondering. And I thank God that that little girl had the courage to send it 2 months later. Dear Mr. Herron, I was the girl with her hand up. I didn't have a question that day. For the first time in my life, I wanted to tell my story. Mr. Herron, my father's a drunk. He's an alcoholic. He has been my whole life. My mom, she suffers from depression. But my father's drinking caused him to lose his job 4 years ago. And for the last 4 years of high school, I've had to wear the same exact clothes every day. And what you wear to high school as a senior, a girl, it matters. And I can tell you, I'm the furthest thing from a pretty girl. I've been battling being ugly since I was a little kid. What I don't understand is why I have to battle kids in my high school because of it. For some reason, Mr. Herron, they like to take pictures of me, Snapchat, record me, and laugh at me. And for the last 4 years, I've gone home from high school by myself with no friends. And for the last 4 years, my father's drunk on the couch. My mom is upstairs in her bedroom with the door closed. So, Mr. Herron, I go to my bedroom, I lock my door, I put my music on, I take my homework out, and I do the one thing that's helped me through my day. I roll up my sleeve, I grab a couple of razor blades, and I cut myself really bad. I'm a cutter, Mr. Herron. I'm scarred from my wrist to my biceps on both arms. But I want you to know that you walked into my high school that day and you said, one kid. I promise you I'll be that kid. Because right after the assembly, you gave me the confidence to confront it. So I walked into the cafeteria and I sat down at the cool kids table. When the whole cafeteria saw me sitting at their table, they started making fun of me. telling me I don't belong and I should get up. For the first time in my life, I stood my ground. And as soon as that whole table sat down, I rolled up my sleeves and I showed them all my scars. I said, look what you've done to me. You don't even know me, but you make fun of me. You have no idea what I've been through. It's not my fault my father's a drunk. I walk into this high school every day embarrassed, humiliated about what I'm wearing and how I look. I hope making fun of me, laughing, has helped you over the last 4 years. Because I wanted to show you how much it's hurt me. She said, since that day, Mr. Heron, those kids have never said another word to me. They don't post pictures, they don't laugh, and some have had the decency and courage to approach me and say sorry to me. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart coming to my high school and making a difference in that one kid's life. That little girl sends me an email every 30 days. That little girl's email that I get every 30 days telling me she has another month without putting razor blades to her skin, hurting herself. That little girl's email means more to me than anything I've ever accomplished on a basketball court. When I started this, my kids were little. Now, 2 in high school and my youngest is 9. And every high school I go to, every college campus I present on, kids will say, Mr. Heron, now that your kids are in high school, how do you handle them drinking and smoking on weekends? How do you handle your son getting drunk at his best friend's house on Fridays and Saturdays? For now, as a father, I'm still very blessed to be at IF. It doesn't mean my kids won't, but they haven't. If they do, I will not be like my mom and dad, and I will not be like some of your parents. I will not ignore it. I will not look away. I'm not going to interrogate, punish, or take away because of it. I could care less with who, how much, where it happened. I'm walking into their bedroom. I'm going to make my 17-year-old son look me in the eye. I'm going to make my 15-year-old daughter pick up her chin. I'm going to tell him how much I love him. And I'm going to say, as your father, please tell me why. Why did my son need drugs to hang out with kids he's known since he was this big? Why does my little girl need to get drunk to stand in a house that she grew up in on a Friday night amongst kids she's known since she was 5? Why weren't you enough tonight? Just being you. See, we all have why inside. Most of us are afraid to talk about it. Don't want to recognize the beginning. Just like some of you, I want to skip this talk. Just like some of you, I walked into this talk with the attitude, sat as far away from the speaker as I could, looked down and said, all I do is drink and smoke, man. I'll never be that guy. See, they wrote a book about me when I was your age, a junior. And this man who said he's going to write a book about me, he said that I'm going to include 14 of your high school basketball teammates. Our parents, doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers, stay-at-home moms, single moms. Out of the 15 kids on my high school basketball team that they wrote the book about that would have walked into this assembly like it was a joke, out of the 15 kids that drank out of red Solo cups and smoked blunts on Fridays and Saturday nights, out of the 15 kids that would have tried to skip this assembly. 7 of us became heroin addicts. But our mommies and daddies are doctors and lawyers. We thought we were tough in the woods, cool in the basements. I never heard one friend say playing beer pong in a basement, cards, quarters. I never heard one friend say in the woods, I can't wait to stick needles in my arms when I get older. 6 years ago, I would have walked in and I would have told you my story. What I've learned is my story's not enough. That you kids, you deserve way more than just a story. We focus on the worst day, and we forget the first day. We want to tell you stories and show you movies about what drug addiction looks like in the end. If I asked this school to walk into this assembly today with pictures of drug addicts, if I asked you today, come prepared with a picture of a drug addict in your pocket, 95% of you would have brought a picture of a person in the final stage of their life because of drug addiction. Why? What, you don't think we start somewhere? You think we look like that? From day one? Why do you see them as prostitutes and homeless people? And not soccer players and shortstops? I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was told that this school district had 18 overdose deaths last year of alumni from these schools. So let me ask you a question. Do yourself a favor. Go knock on the door of the mom and dad that just buried one of your alums and ask them for a picture when they were in high school. Say, can I see your son's picture in high school? Well, you think he looks different? That kid drank in the same woods you're drinking in. He's buying liquor from the same liquor stores you buy it. And you think you're different. And you think it will never be you. I just want you to know, they thought it would never be them. Because if you want to keep it real in here right now, there's a whole bunch of you that have been caught. There's kids in here right now that your parents suspect you of it. Well, how come they haven't asked you why yet? Most parents won't ask it because they're afraid of it. And most kids won't offer it because they're embarrassed by it and want to pretend it's not there. No father wants his little boy to look up at him and say, hey, guess what, Dad? I walk around this house like I'm the man. But truth be told, I can't even sit amongst my friends on a Friday night and just be myself. I don't even have the confidence. If I do get invited to a party, I'm so scared to walk into it. So it makes me feel a little better about myself when I walk into basements with a buzz on. It allows me to do things I normally wouldn't. Parents don't want to hear that. So they don't ask it. See, I think parents hover over you, academically apply pressure to you, athletically, but forget you socially. When we need a coach, a teacher the most, we're all by ourselves in a basement and have no idea what to do with it. I pray my kids have the ability to go out on Friday nights, because I never did. And I know what that feels like. I had to get drunk to do that stuff. I didn't know how to do it without it. See, my dad was a politician and my mom was in corporate America. We owned a couple of houses and I was a big-time high school basketball player. I have all the confidence in the world. I pretended to. See, my courage in high school came in numbers. We walked in 10 deep, sat as far away from the speaker as we could. And we hid in the middle of each other. But I'm telling you right now in this gymnasium, I wish somebody walked into my school, snatched me off the bleachers, and simply said to me, "You're a McDonald's All-American, man. You're ranked in the top 20 basketball players in the United States. You're being recruited by every school in this country. You can't even walk down 12 stairs to your best friend's basement on a Friday night unless you're drunk. You can't even hang out amongst kids you've known since elementary school without drugs, dude. You tell me what's up." If I was honest, I would have looked him in the eye and just simply said, "Real talk. My parents' marriage is falling apart. I'm a little stressed out over that. See, I drink alcohol and I smoke pot because it helps me forget." I don't know how many of you in here have a mom or dad that you wish would stop. I don't know how many of you in here have been affected by alcohol or drugs. But my family has. See, when I was a little boy, I had no idea what alcoholism was, and I thought beer was normal, but I saw my mom cry about it. I watched my mom's heartbreak over it. I watched my parents divorce because of it. And if you're anything like me, I remember like it was yesterday being this big, laying in my bed, listening to my parents fight. And if you're anything like me, I remember laying in that bed as a little boy crying at night and saying to myself, "I promise, man. I broke that promise when I was 14 years old when I started drinking my daddy's Miller Lights. All those nights crying because of that beer can. My mom and dad getting divorced because of it. And now I walk around my high school like I'm cool because I can drink the beer that broke my mother's heart. Wow, that must make me so cool, man. That must make me so tough. There's nothing cool about that, man. That's a whole lot of sadness. And having no idea what to do with it. Kids often say to me, "Hey, Mr. Henry, let's talk about your rock bottom. Let's talk about rock bottom. I would have stood in front of you 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I would have came up with the ugliest, most horrifying story. But see, after doing this for so many years, the bottom has become different. See, the first day, just like some of you, I grabbed a couple of beers out of my father's fridge. Just like some of you, I stuffed them in my pockets and I ran out of my house. And just like some of you, I had a friend with me. And together we decided to drink them. And once we did, we finished them. Once we finished them, we dug a little hole behind my garage and we buried them. As soon as I got done drinking my dad's beer, I ran around my garage to go pick up my basketball to shoot in the driveway. And my mom was standing there. She shocked me because she came home from work early. She called me over to give her a hug. For the first time in my life, I ran away from my mother. I didn't want my mom smelling my father's booze on our little boy's breath. No way, man. Do you know how many nights my mom had to fall asleep to that smell? How many mornings she woke up to it? And now, she's gonna smell it on me? See, for me, that's the beginning of the bottom. That's where my story began. That's the first day that nobody wants to talk about. See, because just like some of you, I remember Fridays and Saturdays, but what I remember most in high school about those nights was not the drinking and the smoking. It was the end of the night when it was time to go home, so the anxiety would kick in, stress would come out, Visine would go in, gum. I'd spray my clothes, I'd wash my hands, I'd splash my face. See, when I was your age, I always covered up my mistakes. See, I covered up my mistakes because my mom believed in me. My mom was my biggest fan. And I'm not ready to let my mother down yet. I don't want to break her heart. So at the end of the night, as I'm covering up my mistakes, I would always look across the room and see my friends in high school that never drank and that never smoked, who got laughed at and made fun of, peer pressured, often not invited, sometimes outcast. But at the end of the night, I would always look across the room and I would see those kids sitting there with their water in their hand. And I would say to myself, we can laugh at them. We can put pressure on them. But real talk, those kids have something special I'm missing, man. You know, I'm 15, 16 years old spending my mother's money on drugs. They don't have to. Every Friday and Saturday night, I'm covering up my mistakes. They don't have a need to. Yet we laugh and make fun of those kids. Maybe the joke's on me. I knew deep down inside, I knew with all my heart that those kids had something special. I just had no idea how they got it. Because I will tell you this right now, there was never a night. There was never a night for me when I got past my mother, after covering up my mistakes like some of you. There was never a night that I ran up to my room, closed the door, looked in the mirror and said, I'm so proud of you, man. And if you can honestly sit in your seat right now and think of the friend that you grew up with, who grew up just like you, who went to the same schools as you, the kid that doesn't drink and that doesn't smoke, you never walk down the hallway, see them, and you never say to yourself, how come? How come they've never had to do the stuff that I've done? We grew up on the same street, yet she's okay and I'm not. She's the same kid I remember in middle school, and I am completely different. You never go home now, sit at the table with your grandmother, look your mom in the eye, and there's not a part of you that says, I'm only 16 years old and they don't even know me anymore. All they've done for me and they don't even know the real me. I don't know how many of you in here have a little brother or sister. If you don't, a little cousin, niece, or nephew. I want you to think of that little kid in your life that absolutely adores you and looks up to you. Because you're a hero in their eyes. They brag about you. They talk to their friends about you. They listen to the music you listen to. They want to dress like you when they get older. Your little brother, your little sister want to follow in your footsteps. So sit in your seat right now in these bleachers and ask yourself one question. The kid you are today, do you really want your little brother to be like you? You want him smoking how you smoke? You want him to drink how you drink? Do you really want your little sister doing what you do? That's what you want for that little girl, man? To try what you're trying right now? To hang out with people like you hang out with? That's what you want for that little kid? You want that little boy to pretend like you? See, I talk about little brothers and sisters because I spoke at a school. And during my presentation, 4 8th grade boys walked out crying. After my presentation, I met with them. One little boy said, "I wish you came here 5 days ago." 5 days ago, 2 of our best friends walked home from school to play Xbox. The house they went to was an 8th grade boys. The 7th grade boy followed. They chose the 8th grade boys because he had an older brother and sister in high school. They never come home after. They get high and drink with their friends. When they got to the house, the 8th grade boy convinced the 13-year-old boy that it's fun to take pills when you play Xbox. He followed the 8th grade boy up to the bathroom. They grabbed a couple of pills. Both boys swallowed them. They ran back downstairs laughing and joking like they got away with it. 30 minutes later, the 7th grade boy got real sick. His little stomach, he couldn't handle it. So he started throwing up everywhere. He was panicking. He wanted to call 911, but he didn't want to get in trouble. So he held off. 30 minutes later, he had nothing left to give. So he started to calm down. 8th grade boy helped him, cleaned him up, got him a drink, and walked him halfway home. At the halfway point, they went separate ways. Before they did, they made a promise to each other they'd never talk about it again. He'll regret it for the rest of his life. Because at 7 o'clock at night, when mom came in from work, older brother and sister nowhere to be found. Xbox was on, so she went in to shut it off. When she opened the bedroom, the boy was in bed. She was going to get him up for dinner and homework. When she walked up to him, she realized he was dead in bed. He died at 14 years old trying to be like his big sister. All he wanted to do was take what she took. All he wanted to do was be like his big brother. And he lost his life because of it. That's a hard casket to carry, man. Are you really the big brother, big sister your little one needs? The saddest thing about that is every auditorium I say it, I watch kids cry. I watch kids shake their head like I do not want my little sister to be like me. Then why in the world would you do it to yourself? If you don't want your little sister doing it, why are you? If it's the last thing in the world you want your little brother to try, then why are you trying it? A Oh, don't get it twisted. Every time you take one, there's a chance you're not coming back from it. Trust me, I know a bunch of them who never came through. And the saddest thing is that the culture that kids are growing up in today, popping pills, Xannies, and Mollies, it's like a song. It's not a song, man, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. To spend your family's money on something that kills you. There's a lot of kids in here that have been touched by this. And there's a lot of kids you don't even know how much they've been affected by it. So be careful how you act and how you present around it, because there's kids in here whose heart is broken because of it. I just spoke in Ohio where there was a little girl sitting in the freshman section. And during my Q&A, first question came from the freshman section. And I was so proud of this little girl, right? She had blonde hair, little polo shirt, jeans, shell-toe sneakers on. She popped up like she was ready to go. As soon as the principal walked the microphone to her, she grabbed it, she started shaking. When she started shaking, kids started laughing. After the kids started laughing, she got nervous, so she ran out. They started clapping. After my assembly, the principal pulled me aside. He said, listen, just a little background on that little girl. Her father's been out of the picture for 10 years because of drugs. Her mother just got sentenced to 14 years in prison. See, she was sentenced to prison because her mom was addicted to Percocets and Xanax. She didn't go to jail because of the drugs. She went to prison for 14 years because she started selling that little girl on the internet when she was 9. 9 years old, that little girl had to go to motel rooms for Xanax. And yet there's kids in here that will laugh about pills. There's kids in here right now that take pills. There's kids in here right now that you're friends with that are popping pills, and you laugh and joke like it's no big deal. I promise you that little girl could walk into this high school today, walk amongst you, and you would never, ever know. But if she sat amongst you and watched you laugh about it like they're a joke, she'd run out crying because she was sold for them. Funny, pills are funny. Little girls get sold for them and it's a joke. We laugh about them like they're no big deal. Because if it's no big deal, how about this? If it's no big deal, most of us have grandparents in here who we absolutely adore and respect. Go to their house after school, sit down with your grandmother, let her make you a sandwich, and tell her everything you've been up to. And try to explain to her that it's normal and it's no big deal. Watch your grandmother's heart break right before your eyes. Tell your mom and dad who you really are. And watch how shocked they'll be. If it's no big deal. Because there's kids in here right now that used to be really good friends. There's a kid in this gym right now that you grew up with, but no longer speak to. That kid loves you and knows more about you than the kid you decided to click with today. See, you cut ties with that friend. You no longer talk or support them. Because they won't make the same mistakes you make. They don't want to risk what you're risking. They don't want to let mom and dad down. You've already sacrificed for drugs and alcohol in your life. You cut an amazing, caring, loving, loyal friend out of your life because they won't do them with you. See, there's kids in here right now sitting with each other, but bring nothing to one another's life. As a matter of fact, what you bring is just negativity. hanging out with kids that make you worse, man. You're hanging out with kids that add no value to your life, that could care less about your mom and dad. And they could care less about your little brother and sister. Surround yourself with friends. When they see you slipping, they pick you up and think about your mom and dad. Anybody can smoke blunts. Anybody can drink in the basements. Not everybody can walk away, though. Not everybody can go home, look mom and dad in the eye and say, I am the same kid I was in middle school. Not everybody can do that, man. I know I couldn't. I didn't have that type of courage. I have so much admiration for the kids who can walk into this gym on a Friday night and clap for their fellow classmates. I have so much admiration for the kids who can go to homecoming, prom, and football games and not need to get a buzz on to walk in. That takes courage. That's guts. Being you is enough. And that's an amazing strength to have. I wish I passed down to the kids when I was in high school that what was cool was not to pretend to be someone else. Cool is kids who can just step in and handle it, can dance and not need it, go through that roller coaster of high school and survive it. That's cool. Because my question is pretty simple. If you're so happy, if you're so confident, why in the world are you doing drugs? To the kids that don't have to, I applaud you. To the kids that do, I understand you. There's nothing weird about the both of you. Help one another. Look out for each other. I don't care what anybody says. High school's hard, man. High school is not easy. Unfortunately, parents want to tell you that it's the best 4 years of your life. For real? 14 to 18? High school's hard. And there's kids in here that battle with self-esteem. There's kids in here right now that don't feel good enough, pretty enough, or have enough. And you can laugh and play it off like it's not a big deal, but that's hard to live with. I've been sober for almost 9 years. There has not been one day I woke up wanting to smoke or drink, take a pill, or shoot dope, except the days I just don't feel good being me. It's been that from day one. The battle's always been right here. Drugs and alcohol came second. Not being me. It always came first. See, everybody thinks this talk is about drugs and alcohol. It's way bigger than that. This is about struggle. And every kid in here knows a little bit about it. Some more than others. Not everybody has the luxury of walking out of this assembly today and going home, sitting down with a family member and explaining to them what's going on. But every single one of you in this auditorium right now has a teacher, an administrator, or a coach on this property that will do anything to help you if they only got to know you. See, right now they only know the kid you pretend to be. They don't know the real you yet. See, what they know is the act that you're putting on, not what's inside of you. There's kids in here pretending. I pretended too. See, I walk in here because I wish I walked out of this assembly. I wish I walked out of this assembly. I wish I walked behind that curtain, grabbed a coach, talked to a teacher for a minute, looked them in the eye and said, I don't want to pretend anymore, man. I'm tired of acting like everything's cool when I know it's not. There's kids in here right now who know that feeling. There's kids in this gym right now that are struggling. And I pray that one of you get off the bleachers, one of you get up from your seat, and on your way back to class, one of you say to yourself, without a doubt, I should be better than I am right now, man. I'm not proud of the kid I'm becoming. I'm not comfortable with the mistakes I'm making. That's not who I am. That's not the person I want to be. Anytime a kid opens his mouth to share something, it takes guts. And for as much as I struggled in my life, I truly believe that struggle ended the day I started talking about it. This assembly is not easy, and it shouldn't be. This assembly is about you, not me. Anybody can walk in here and show you a 30-minute movie and tell you their life story. I want you to forget my story and think of yours. What up, buddy? Good?
I just wanted to say thank you very much. Did you have your contact, please?
You understand me? For real. All right? And we're in it together. But don't you listen, you stick with me on that.